Welcome everybody. Hello. I think I said hi to everyone. Cindy, you might be the only one I didn't get to say hi to yet. Hi, Cindy. All right, so just a little while ago, I had a raptor up in my tree, kind of right behind me there, and it flew off when a crow came in and was growling at it. It's kind of a fun sound to hear. It didn't caw. It was like, "Argh!" It just sort of growled and like scared it off. So I was kind of curious if it would come back at all, but. Anyways, so this morning I went out. So our sit this morning is going to be an inspiration from my time on a bird walk today. And just so you know, it's quite a mosquito-y time of year. So I have some like incense, it's some like citronella-y kind of incense going. So you might see some smoke wafting past my face at times. um, anyway, so I went to this really lovely spot. It's one of my favorite places to go. It's like a sort of a secret spot around here for me anyway. It's a place that not a lot of people go to, which I often love those kind of places, especially in the morning. And so I went out there. It's a short little walk over the hill, and you get to this access for this big lake. And most of the accesses are really just either you have to have private property there or it's public access. And so this is a nice, it's a public access, but it's really tiny. Only two cars can park out in the little area. And so I walked in there this morning and just really took my time, because what happens is when you crest the hill, you start to walk down. There's just a little trail going down to the water's edge, and it's really easy to scare the birds because there's lots of trees there. So it's a really natural environment. It's not like an official beach or anything. And right now, with all the water we've had, it's a very small beach. Anyway, there's just a really tiny shoreline. Um, and so I know it's very easy to startle the waterfowl, and I can't see them until I get down there. And so I just really take my time. I go slowly, I go quietly, I walk really softly on my feet. And I was listening as I was going down and noticing that the catbirds were alarming a little bit at me as I was walking down. And they're just a good indication of, sort of how mindful I was being. And as I approached, I could see motion in the one of the shrubs, and it was a common yellowthroat, which is a little warbler that we have around here. And I think it was a female, and she was moving, and I know that they have an alarm as well. And I thought, well, if there are any waterfowl around, that they would probably be attuned to the common yellowthroat, because the common yellowthroat is a warbler of the wetlands and water areas. And so I didn't want to startle the common yellowthroat because I didn't want to give my, position away. And so I stood still for quite a while, and then I could see it was still feeding. And so I kind of went about my business, and then I, just sort of didn't pay too much attention to it. I just really focused my energy inward and allowed myself to not sort of be outward, not be like excited, like, oh gosh, what am I going to see? Who's see, even just that energy, right? Can you hear that bird alarm right next to me? That's awesome. So just me doing that, like that energy of like excitement, like that bird's really mad at me now. That's a little Carolina wren. Now it's coming in closer. So it was fine up until me doing that. It's just so interesting. So all of today is really about this. It's a sort of a slant on this idea of belonging. And so as I was sitting there, I sat at the shore. I finally got to the shoreline, sat at the edge and was listening, and I found this nice rock to sit on. And over to my right, I could see that there was actually was a spotted sandpiper that was walking on the, I think if it was the coast, we call it the rack line, but basically there's a bunch of stuff on the edge of the shore, and they were just feeding on there. And I'd been sitting for a while before it showed up, and I was just curious, like how close it would get to me, and if it would actually walk by my feet, because I was sitting very still. And it was like, there was a couple song sparrows that were feeding next to me, not too far away. And the common yellowthroat was in the bush behind me. And so everything was pretty calm, like nobody was upset around me. And so this sandpiper came maybe about, I don't know, 20 feet away, 30 feet away. And then it just turned around and started walking back slowly in the other direction. And it was just lovely, because in that moment, what I realized was that, each of the birds, even if it, like the bigger birds to the smaller birds, not even that big, it could be like this song sparrow to the sandpiper, they all have their own sort of comfort zones and their level of respect for each other. And so it's the same with me. So if I'm sitting there and I'm just being me, and I'm grounded and connected, that even so, that the birds are going to have some degree of respect for me, you know, and just acknowledgement. And there are ways I could probably have been even more calm. I'm sure there was a little bit of intention in my, or curiosity of like, oh, I wonder if it's going to come close. You know, I was trying not to do that, but you know, when you try, it sort of negates the act of doing. So anyway, our practice this morning is going to tap into that a little bit, because what came to my mind is this idea of belonging. And so I think that sometimes in our modern world, we confuse this idea of belonging with either being entitled or like that we deserve to be there. And so I think some of us who are really conscious and mindful people, we have this sense like, well, I don't want to be entitled, like that I'm entitled to be in this place, or that I deserve to do what I'm doing necessarily. And so I think sometimes belonging gets wrapped into that, and then we don't feel like we belong where we are, right? Especially people who come, you know, who have European descent, there can be lots of conversations around that idea of belonging. And but I just like to put out there this morning for us this idea of just belonging to the earth, and belonging as a human being to the earth, that we as a human being right now belong. And not that we necessarily deserve to be there, not that we necessarily are entitled to be somewhere, even on our home, but that we belong, and that it's still, even though we belong somewhere, that we can still ask permission or have courtesy before we enter a new space, or even enter our own place. You know, maybe before you buy property somewhere, you can always ask permission of that land, you know, if it's okay for you to be there. So all that to say, we're going to practice that idea and just sort of play with the idea of belonging today. So don't take it too seriously. Just try to explore that, and explore everything I'm going to present to you with the idea that you do belong. So if you don't believe that, or you don't agree with me in that, that's okay. You can throw that away at the end of this practice. But just for right now, allow yourself to have the sense that you belong. And so we're going to get ourselves grounded in this moment. Let yourself just, I think you're probably all pretty settled in already. Just noticing the parts of your body that are touching either the ground or the seat beneath you, becoming present to your environment in your own body. Noticing your breath. Is your breath relatively shallow right now? Is it full and deep? And right away, I know for me that when I become attuned to my breath, I also instantly notice my posture. Because I often want to take, I realize that I'm not breathing as deeply as I would like, and I'd like to take a fuller breath, and often that requires a better posture. And so just notice your posture right now. You can adjust if you want to. You can adjust your breath if you want to take a deeper breath. Imagine that you're filling your lungs completely and moving all the way even up to your head, that every part of your body is filling with air. And then allow it just to release. Let it go. And let it fill in again, fully and completely, from the bottoms of your feet all the way through your legs, your belly, your chest, into your head. And just let yourself fall into a natural rhythm of breathing. And now we're going to bring our attention to our eyes. So find a nice place to focus your eyes. So somewhere off in the distance, pick a point. If you always pick the same point, maybe pick a different point this time. Find something different to focus on. And then just allow your eyes to soften. And so we'll shift to the other senses in our body in just a little bit, but we're going to begin with our eyes right now. And so, as you're looking out there on the landscape, as your eyes and your vision are getting softer, and you're allowing everything to come into perspective, into your vision, I just want you to consider in what ways right now are your eyes giving you a sense that you belong. So remember, we're just playing with the idea or the assumption that we do belong, that we were born of this earth, belonging to her. And what from our eyes can we see that indicates that to us? How do we know that we belong through what we see or become aware of in our eyes? And just let yourself explore that right now for the next few moments. And it's okay if this doesn't make total sense to you, you're not sure exactly how to explore that question, but just ask the question and see what comes. Nice work, everybody. So now we're gonna shift our awareness to an interesting one, another one of our senses. And we're gonna tap into our sense of smell. So you can still use your eyes, keep your eyes in softened vision and owl eyes right now. And for the next couple of minutes, we're gonna be tuning ourselves into our sense of smell and just asking that question of how, through our sense of smell, can we, I guess, just see any representations of how we belong, any examples of our belonging through what we're perceiving from our nose. So just try that out, play with that. Okay. And now you can choose whether or not you want to close your eyes for this next bit or keep them open. So we're going to bring our attention to our ears. And some people find that when you're listening, that it can go a little bit deeper when your eyes are closed, but it doesn't really matter, whichever one you prefer. So we're going to shift our attention to our ears right now and ask a similar question. In what way, through our ears, those sounds that we're hearing, is there some indication or example of our belonging in this place and time right now? You can keep your eyes closed if they're already closed, or I'll invite you to close them right now. Because now our final question for ourselves is going to be to ask and to go within in this moment and ask ourselves how we belong in our own body right now. What indications do we have that we belong inside of our own body? So tapping into your own physical experience right now. And in this last minute, just see if you can just allow yourself to belong. I know some people may feel that they don't. And whether you do or whether you don't, just see if you can just allow yourself to belong inside your own experience, inside your own body right now, inside this earth. Good work. So you can keep your eyes closed, or you can gently open them if you'd like, and just take a moment to give gratitude and appreciation to those ones that you connected with today, and even to your own self. All right. How did that go? Just love to hear anyone's experience, their stories, anything they want to share from what that was like for you to explore that question today. You can just raise your hand if you want to share. And maybe while people are sort of gathering their thoughts, I'll just tell you that I guess one reason why belonging came up for me today was that um, I think that it's one way that we can either sort of hinder or help ourselves um, to allow the birds and other forms of nature to come close to us, you know, because if we feel like we don't belong, then there's already a barrier between us and the rest of the natural world. And my experience has been that when I think those thoughts, that it keeps things farther from me. Whereas the days when I either just naturally do or, you know, make the intention to be conscious of my belonging, then I have the experience of the natural world coming closer and feeling more sort of at peace and at ease around me. Um, yeah. So I'd love to hear anyone's experience this morning, any stories that sort of came to you from any of those realms that we covered with our sight, our smell, our ears, our own self. Yeah, go for it, Jacqueline. Oh, you're muted. I think you're still muted, Jackie. I'll click the button. Hold on, let me click this and it might pop something up for you. Is that popping up anything? I think you're frozen now. Uh-oh. Maybe we'll give her a second to, I think her computer's frozen. Anyone else want to share?
Okay.
Oh, there you go. We got her back. It's good. I think you're visually frozen, but we can hear your voice now. Oh, there you are. Good, good.
Okay. So when I was doing the hearing one, I heard my little fountain that's outside my open door. And I thought about how our bodies are made up of, what is it, 70% water. And I don't know, it just made me feel like I belonged because of that. But initially, when I was thinking of the of belonging, I I realized that, gosh, we humans are the only ones that wear clothes. And it almost felt like that creates a barrier in some way, even though, of course, we need them for protection. But that was just a curious thing.
That is a curious thing. I think that's, I know for me, like even just letting my feet be naked, sometimes I can feel more connected to the earth. Just even starting there, just starting with our feet being bare on the earth, that there's something that changes, when my feet don't have the shoes around them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Huh, that's really, thank you, Jacqueline, for that. I really appreciate your perspective.
No, thank you.
Hmm. Yeah. And the water piece also was really rich. I hadn't thought about that, but you're absolutely right. Yeah. Imagine like just it's a weird thing to think about, like there were these like bodies of water. We're like moving, walking, breathing bodies of water. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to share? Yeah, go for it, Jacinth.
Hello. I, for me, well, a couple of things. First thing, a few years ago, I got COVID and I lost my sense of smell, like most of it, not all of it, but like a good part of it. And it came back a little bit, but not completely. So I'm always I felt this great sadness, like when it was that part of the smell, because every time I kind of put my attention on my sense of smell, then I realize how much I can't smell much anymore. So that was just, like a sad part. And I don't know if it'll ever come back, but I feel like I'm like amputated of some parts of my body in a way, and that makes me yeah, like I feel like there's some things that I cannot perceive anymore. So that was one thought that I had.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Jacinth, I wonder, I know with some people, for instance, like folks who either lose or are born without eyesight or hearing and whatnot, that it's said that their other senses become stronger. Have you found that at all for yourself, that your other senses have become heightened because you don't have the sense of smell as much to rely on?
Ah, it's a good question. I don't know, but I n- I don't think so. Well, not yet, or maybe I didn't notice it.
Yeah,
But I'll try to, like, that's a good question. I'll think about that and I'll try to notice that.
yeah. It's
Um,
it's
yeah.
interesting because I think like smell for me seems like one of those senses that isn't like a dominant sense, but it is. It's just like it's a very subtle sense, I think. Whereas eyes and ears, like they're so prominent, like we see it so like whatever, like we can't not see you unless we don't see. And the same with hearing. And whereas smell, it's almost like it goes undetected by our brains. It's kind of in the background until it's not, until like if you have a stuffy, for anyone who maybe still has their sense of smell, like if you have a stuffy nose and you can't smell something, then that's when we become aware of it. And I wondered actually how dominant it is, like how much it actually does direct or guide, things in our life. And that's just an interesting, yeah, it's interesting. And I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry that
Yeah. Oh,
it's your experience at the moment.
yeah. But yeah, and for the belonging question, like I speak French, and I'm still like it's really good question, and I was trying to think like what words would I use in French? Like I'm not even sure how to translate that in French.
Mm.
Like I have a word that I can think of, but I'm not sure if it's the actual um right meaning of it.
Yeah. What
So
is
I
your
have
word?
to look that up. Well, it's like appartenir, like the verb appartenir, like yeah, but I'm not sure if that's the right word, and it made me want to look for maybe better ways to explain it or better ways to translate it. So yeah,
What does the partenaire mean?
appartenir. Well, yeah, like it's really belonging, but I think usually you like if you use it more for like an object
Ah, yeah, this
or an
belongs to me.
experience.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
if something like if you own something,
Yeah.
it would be like appartenir, like I own this object or I own this land or I even own this experience, like cette expérience m'appartient ou cette idée m'appartient. Like it could be a bunch of things, but I'm not too sure if it goes the other way. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so that's why I'm trying to see if there would be a better word or a better way to translate it. So that's something I'll be thinking of.
That's really fascinating because I think
Mm.
about, I hadn't thought about that until you said it, but the idea that like we have a word that means belong, like this belongs to me. But when we think
Yes,
of belonging in like the English language, it's almost like the most furthest from belong, like owning something
mhm,
that you can get. It's like you don't need to own anything when you belong, Like,
exactly.
you just are a part of it all. There's no ownership in any of that. And how interesting that those two words are so different, but so they're the same,
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
I'd never thought about that. I love different languages. This is so great.
Well, yeah, I'll let you know if I can think of something or if I find something interesting. And yeah,
Okay.
and maybe just one last thing, like I just wanted to say like thank you, and I won't be in the live calls for a while because I'm a teacher and school starts for us teachers this week, and students come in next week. I'm a cégep teacher in Quebec, Canada. So yeah, so I have class until noon on Monday, so I won't be able to be in the live calls, but I'll try to catch the replays as much as
Oh,
I can. So
good.
yeah.
Well, and maybe if you guys have a day off or day off, whatever,
Yeah,
hopefully that you can join us. But it's
exactly.
so nice to have you here. It's just, and thank you for coming. Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
thanks for letting me know
Thank
too. Mhm.
you.
Yeah. Sweet. Anyone else want to share their experience? Yeah, so this is a rich one, this is one of those, like sometimes I say that our practices here are simply skill based, it's just like, all right, let's try and do this thing with our eyes or this thing with our ears. And sometimes it's deeper, and just asking us to like ponder something a bit deeper. And I think today's practice is that, it's these questions can take us sort of deep within ourselves. Yeah, Cindy, go for it. Nice hat.
Um, I'm just going to babble. I wanted to share. So, probably to me, the most profound thing was the beginning when you gave an example of striving to find birds and you got excited. And then you said the birds around you got agitated. To me, that was pretty profound.
Mm.
And it represents, I have this bit of a war I've had for quite a while inside of me about a love-hate thing with birding. It sucks me into strive, and I don't like that. And I don't like striving for numbers, getting a new bird for my bird list, for the competition, that anxiety. I don't. I liked birding before I started doing that. Anyway, and I love your program every Monday. Doing this sit is helping me get back to the birding I love. I want to be a part of. I want to be a part of. I want to belong. I don't want to own. I don't want that kind of belonging, that these birds, they belong to me because they're on my bird list. That's not what I want. So thank you so much.
Wow, Cindy, thanks for sharing that. Yeah. I have a lot of empathy for that. For years, I kept a list like in my own mind or in my field guide. I would keep track of like the birds I just saw, but I wasn't like a lister per se. And I've had a conversation with a friend of mine. Some of you know Dan Gardoki from Maine, and Dan was telling me like every other year he does like a big county year, like a big year for his county, and he doesn't do it every year, but every other year he does. And I wasn't like against it, but I just was like, I'm not that kind of birder. I don't, it's not like why I go out and bird. And what he shared with me is that it what it's done for him is it's forced him to go to places he might not normally go to like explore certain birds he might not normally explore, and it's pushed him to become better in some ways. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll try it this year. And I have mixed feelings about it as well. I noticed that for me, there is that anxiety of like, oh, there's a new bird. I gotta go get it. I gotta get the bird. I gotta own it. I gotta make it belong to my list. And so what I decided I would do kind of early on was that my primary intention when I go out to like get a new bird on my list would be, first of all, to like just love the day, like have a wonderful day. But second, it would be to connect deeply with the place and the birds, and that my approach would still be my approach. Like I wouldn't go with anxiety. I wouldn't go with like that, even though it's exciting. Like I'm not going to say deny like that piece of the excitement when you do like find a new bird or see a new bird for the first time. Um, because I did start to see myself like I lost like the love of it, and I was just sort of like checking one off my list, and I didn't like who I was being when I was out there, and so I shifted that, after a few weeks of diving into it, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go out here and I had this most beautiful experience with the very first worm-eating warbler I ever saw, um and I just went really slow, and I knew it was up ahead. I knew it wasn't too far from me, but I was like, what if it flies away? Like, what if I miss it? Because I'm going so slow and because I'm just like being mindful and whatever. And I didn't. And I had like the most wonderful experience with that bird. And of course, like sometimes some birds fly away and you do miss them and whatever. But I just felt really grateful in that moment. And, everyone's got their own approach to it. But um, I wanted to like not give up on the idea of trying for the county list. I was just like, I wonder if there's another way of doing this instead of just like the black and white of like it's either got to be this or that. I was like, I wonder if I could blend the two. And I still feel like it's not 100% like really the way I love to connect with the world, but I have learned many birds this summer that in spring that I don't think I ever would have learned if I hadn't been trying for it. So I'm still figuring it out, I'm still like trying to like just play with this other way of being and see like what else is possible. I appreciate you sharing your experience with that. Yeah. Wow, you should take a picture of yourself right now. I want to take a picture of you. Hold on. It's so pretty. There's like the sun behind you, you turn sort of sideways. I used to be a photographer, by the way. There. Oh, I got it. I'm going to send it to you. So pretty. Isn't that beautiful? It's like everything, the light, the color, her hat, like photography is another thing, another way of like of being with birds, that I find for I never did wildlife photography actually, mostly people, but I found that photography is one of those ways that it does two things. Like it separates you from the one that you're looking at, you know, whatever it is. And but it also brings you in closer. You know, when I was photographing, if it was something in nature, I found that like I was looking at colors and shapes and textures and the layout and all that in a way that I don't normally. Like I don't focus on all those things when I'm just looking with my naked eye and not thinking about composition and the best light and so I think it brought me deeper into life, but at the same time it separated me too. You know, it kept this like this element between me and the world. So yeah, a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cindy. Yeah, Della, go for it.
Yeah. Oh, this is really interesting what you're saying. And, you know, over the last year and a half, I guess I've evolved and changed the way I bird, following Kristi's classes, of course. And then now I do keep a list. I have the Sibley bird diary or whatever it is, and I actually keep a list of each new bird. But I'm not competitive at all, what I find most fulfilling
Oh, lost Della for a minute. Della, you're freezing.
and repeating and going back there and seeing the birds and watching their behavior and listening to them and what the different sounds that they make. And this is the sound they make before they go forage. This is the sound they make when they come return, the sound they make when they're with their chicks, that kind of thing. And I use a camera and take photos, and I don't really feel like I know a bird until I've gotten 100 photographs of it, and then I can say, oh, look at its bill, look at its eyes, look at its feet. How does it forage? Yeah. Anyway, I'm babbling, but that's where that's what I do. And I find it very fulfilling. And I think I would be lost without my list. I really need my list. And I really recommend Sibley's because his diary has an excellent index in it. So I can say, okay, wandering tattler, I know I saw that bird, and I can look it up and find out when I saw it, when I took a photograph, the first photograph of it, and I can go find that photograph and any other information that I wrote in the diary. So it's anyway, that's what I do.
That's awesome. And just to clarify, Della, you chopped up for just a minute there. We lost you for a second, and I
Okay.
think what you were saying is that that you do this with the black oyster catchers. Like, so you've chosen like this one species that you monitor, and so you're really focusing on their calls and sounds and behaviors and whatnot. And that's something that you're really loving right now. Is that what you were referring to?
Well, I do that with the black oyster catchers and actually record that data on Google Sheets for a group that's funded by Audubon. So that's kind of a formal thing. But
Right.
because of that experience, I'm now doing that with other birds
Oh,
and not reporting it. Like,
yeah.
for example, the wandering tattler. I have a a wandering tattler that I see almost every day at this certain spot on the beach. And I'm watching it and I'm wondering, why is he always solitary? Why does he just hang out on the rocks? And why just this time of the year? And anyway, I'm just curious about that.
Yeah.
But I'm constantly taking pictures of all the birds. Yeah.
And that's a beautiful, I think, another way of using a list where like you do have the list, but you're also going deep with each one, So like you're really getting to build a relationship, with the birds on your list, not just like it's on the list, that's all I need, and
Yes.
yeah.
I see frequently what happens is someone reports a bird on eBird, And then the next, you know, and then all these people rush with their cameras and their scopes and everything else, and they quick in 15 minutes they got the bird and they're gone.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think, why are you leaving? Don't you want to see what he does next?
Yeah. I know, right? If we thought of each bird like that as like a new friend, you know, would you like a potential new friend is like, would you want to just be like, oh, hey, my name's Kristi, see you later? You know, it's like, but wait, I'm just getting to know you. Like, we haven't even really had a conversation. Like, let's have some
That's
coffee or tea together, you know?
That's right. Write your name in a book and
Yeah, there you go.
I got another friend.
I used to, this is reminding me when I was like, oh, this is terrible. When I was in like middle school, in the back of my diary, I kept a list of like, I was all the boys I'd like kissed or something like that, or like the boy, as either the boys I liked. I have to look because I think I put like a title up there of like the boys I kissed or like the boys I liked, and it was just like, why? Like, why was I keeping a tally of that? Of like, what was, I don't know. And it just reminded me of that. It's like keeping a tally of like, yeah, it just seems silly when you think, when you like look at it that way. You know? I hadn't thought about that in years. Oh, got a little flushed on that one. How silly. All right. Anyone else? One last one, maybe? If anyone has anything else here, I love this conversation. It's so beautiful, all the different places that we've gone with it, you know? Anat, was that a little finger raise or you just, no? Okay. You like to listen, I know. Well, lovely, everybody. Thanks for coming for this one, and thanks for sharing so openly and vulnerably. And I love, yeah, just exploring all of this in the different layers that we did today. You know, because I'm learning as well and exploring it all, and for my own self of like how I want to approach, and you know, yeah, it's just it's an interesting journey it is right now. So thanks everybody, and I think all is good for next week. So we'll see you aside from Jacinth. We'll hope to see you soon some other time and for something else. And for everybody else, we'll hope to see you next week. All right,
Thank
much love,
you.
everybody. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Bye.
Bye. Shalom. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Mhm.